Yo, a new rumor is circulating that 4 huge banks that control $10 trillion worth of capital will be entering the spot Bitcoin ETF game by the end of the year. Matt Hogan, the CIO of Bitwise, dropped this bombshell at a conference and said that this tidal wave of capital could be the catalyst to end all bear markets. Will this change the Bitcoin 4-year cycle forever? Let's jump straight into the clip with the man in question explaining his case, and then we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the 4-year cycle. Is it alive? Is it dead? Anyways, exciting times regardless. Let's check it out.
4-year cycle? Is it over?
Yeah.
Woo.
It's over.
Okay, hold on. Explain.
Well, I mean, so my view of the 4-year cycle is you have a catalyst that brings new pools of capital in. So 2011, it was the launch of Coinbase. Retail investors could buy Bitcoin, new capital, then leverage builds up and eventually it pops. 2015, the introduction of Ethereum. 2019, DeFi. 2023, it was Grayscale winning its lawsuit in March against the SEC. We're going to get ETFs bringing in capital. The reason I think it's probably not going to play out over 4 years is I think that's a longer inflow of capital than retail hot ball of money, which was the past 3. And then secondly, we have yet another of those catalysts in November, which is the election completely changing the game in terms of institutional adoption. So even if the ETF-driven cycle would have built up, leveraged, and popped and receded, we have this second tidal wave that's just so much bigger than that first one. It's going to overwhelm it. So will there be, pullbacks? We're seeing one now as leverage comes out of the system, of course. But the election was such a sea change that it's like, it doesn't matter. Yes, there may be this natural thing, but it's just going to get bulldozed over. That doesn't mean we've repealed pullbacks, but I think this cycle is going to be much longer than people think. I definitely don't think this pullback is the end. I think 2025 will be a great year. I think 2026 will be a great year. I think 2027 will be a great year.
I mean, that's crazy. What I will say, I've been in this for a little bit. What I will say is we hear that every cycle, that the cycles are over. That's like a narrative that we hear every single time. This time is different. Let's see. We'll see how this plays out. But I've been showing you guys this chart, the comparisons between the different cycles. Of course, the blue one is the 2013. The orange one is the 2017. The green one is the 2021. And that red one down below is the current 2025 cycle. And, if Bitcoin performed like it previously did in all the other cycles, it should have already peaked by now, essentially. And that would be really boring. And I don't think that's the case. And the reason that I don't think that's the case is because of all this news that you're hearing, right? Of course, the institutional interests, BlackRock, you have the United States government, the most powerful government on the face of the planet, giving it a rubber stamp of approval, saying that the United States has the intention, this administration has the intention to acquire more Bitcoin. So, I mean, in a way, we've heard this many times, but in a way, we're kind of in uncharted territory, and Bitcoin clearly is not performing as it has in the past. It's acting a little bit different. This could be a little bit more drawn out than what we've been used to in the past. Now, it's very kind of interesting article that he dropped as well, that Opti and I were talking about before the show, and I found it interesting. Let's talk about it. So he goes on to say, earlier this month, I gave the closing speech on day 1 of a national wirehouse conference. That in itself is notable. The big 4 wirehouses, Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, and UBS, control over $10 trillion in client assets. And by and large, these platforms have not yet allowed their advisors to easily access Bitcoin ETFs. As my keynote invitation suggested, that's changing fast. So this is something that I want you guys to pay attention to. This is what we keep telling you this. I keep telling you this. From a news perspective, in my 9 years in Bitcoin, I've never seen as much bullish news in one cycle. From a price perspective, it doesn't seem like it's matching that. However, again, if you pay attention to the fundamentals, they are there. Do you think this is going to stop? Do you think this is going to stop? Like with the interest from the U.S. government, from the interest from the absolute success of the Bitcoin treasury play that MicroStrategy essentially 100x their market cap with, the recent announcement of Jack Mallers, Tether, and SoftBank joining forces to create another Bitcoin holding company. Do you think it's a coincidence that all these things are just succeeding? Do you think Wall Street is just going to sit back and say, you know what, have fun with your Bitcoins? No, they're going to want to get involved, but rightly they're skeptical in a way, right? But I think a lot of that skepticism came from the fact that there was a lot of regulatory uncertainty. That's not the case anymore. Anyways, in fact, I suspect all 4 wirehouses will be open for business on Bitcoin ETFs by the end of the year. That's right. Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, and UBS essentially will allow their clients to buy exposure to Bitcoin by the end of the year. Buy and hold, they control 10 trillion together. That's ridiculous. It's one of the reasons I still expect Bitcoin ETFs to set a new record for net inflows this year, despite pulling in just 3.7 billion so far in 2025, compared to the 35 billion in 2024. But I'm not writing this to make a point about wirehouses. Instead, I want to share a story about one person in the audience. So he gave a speech, and he says the best part of giving a speech is the end. And at this particular event, someone waited till the 20, 30 other people asked their questions. And he said, quote, "I heard what you said, and it made a lot of sense to me, but I just can't get over the hump." And perhaps, you're still there. I mean, I doubt if you're watching Simply Bitcoin, you're probably orange-pilled by now. You're probably a Bitcoin believer. You probably have spot Bitcoin in self-custody. But anyways, so he goes on to say, "My new friend was about to leave, still looking conflicted. When I asked him a simple question, what would it take? Essentially, what would it take to convince you? In other words, what would he have to see to believe that Bitcoin is here to stay?" And this message is for all you guys, for the people that perhaps have been disappointed by this Bitcoin bull market. I posted something a couple days ago where I said, listen, guys, I've been, my job is to talk to people 5 days a week, or the days that I'm traveling. At least I try to talk to people 5 days a week. If not, Opti's talking to Bitcoiners 5 days a week, CEOs, founders, everyday Bitcoiners. And the general consensus this cycle is like, dude, it's been a little bit of a letdown. Like, people expected Bitcoin to be a lot higher by now. This is for those people that have the doubts. For some people, the way they answer this question helps them see that they will never buy Bitcoin. If you're waiting for Bitcoin to be more accepted than gold, or for its volatility to get close to zero, you're never going to buy Bitcoin. But if you don't have those blockers, it's worth asking seriously, what would it take? Institutional custody? Today, publicly traded companies like Coinbase and well-known brands like Fidelity custody Bitcoin, and financial giants like BNY Mellon are close behind. Institutional trading. Today, Bitwise trades with established firms like Jane Street and Cumberland/DRW. Institutional adoption. 9 of the 10 largest hedge funds in the world own Bitcoin today, along with Emory University, an $11 billion endowment, the Teacherment Retirement System of Texas, $210 billion assets under management, and titans of investing like Ray Dalio and Stan Druckenmiller, and many other institutions. How about large asset managers? How about BlackRock and Invesco? I mean, BlackRock is the asset manager, right? Corporate adoption, there's Strategy, there's Block, there's Tesla, right? Tesla's like one of the big 7 tech stocks. A lot of people forget that Tesla holds about 10,000 Bitcoin. And it's also speculated that SpaceX holds Bitcoin as well. And more than 80 other public companies. What about easy access? Well, there's the ETFs. Since the approval of the ETFs on the day that Hal Finney tweeted running Bitcoin, that was the day that the ETF was approved last year in 2024. Model adoption. BlackRock now recommends 2% Bitcoin in investor portfolios. And I know you guys know what that feels like, because we all dipped our toes a little bit, and then you end up perhaps being a degen like me and Opti and going 100%. What about regulatory stability? Market structure legislation is expected to pass through Congress this year. What about government adoption? The US is building a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Whatever it is, write it down, because if you go back even a few years, what we thought it would take, like the US government owning Bitcoin or the largest asset manager in the world embracing the asset, seemed far-fetched, but here we are. My friend thought about it for a moment, took a deep breath, and said, I'm going to buy Bitcoin. I think a lot of people are going to come to the same conclusion this year. So if you take a look at the fundamentals, I've been repeating myself over and over again. They've never been stronger. They've never been stronger than they are right now. Bitcoin has never been in a better position. I laid it out for you guys. So yes, the price action might be a little bit boring. Bitcoin has become the new stable coin. I blame Opti. But again, it's infinity divided by 21 million. And I think there's a tidal wave of more people adopting Bitcoin. And remember, there's only 21 million. So eventually something's got to give. The dam has to break. And what do you think is going to happen to the price? It's going to go absolutely bonkers. And another interesting stat for you guys that I'll drop. Most of Bitcoin's gains, so if you take 365 days, most of Bitcoin's gains happen in 10 days of those 365 days. So if you're not in the market for the entirety of the year, the probability of you missing those 10 days is actually extremely high. So your job is very simple. Make sure that you have more Bitcoin than the day before. HODL. We know it's hard psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, but all the signs are there. I think Bitcoin is going to be absolutely explosive for these next couple of years. I'm going to open up the conversation. I'm going to pass it on to Opti before we introduce our guest who's joining us today. Opti, do you believe the 4-year cycle is dead? I mean, we hear this every cycle. The cycle is dead. Super cycle. He kind of said super cycle. I'm kind of leaning to, dude, I don't think this particular cycle or this particular bull run is going to it's going to end at the end of 2025. I think this might go into the Q1 of 2026. Opti, what's your take?
Yeah, so I've been kind of saying for a while, I'm still on the fence over this idea of the 4-year cycle being dead. Obviously, we won't know until the end of the year, so I'm kind of tentatively just going based on what we've seen historically in Bitcoin. And I know everyone in the chat's kind of trolling and being like, of course, they always say this time is different, but this time does feel different. Obviously, we'll only be able to understand this or know what actually happened in hindsight. But if you really kind of lay out that video, and yes, it was a week old, the beginning of Matt Hogan, but it really kind of sets us up for what we're talking about today, where he's suggesting that by the end of the year, the 4 biggest banks in the world are going to allow, their customers and clients to engage in Bitcoin ETFs, whether that means launching their own or essentially just opening it up for the BlackRock ETF, etc. So I'm starting to look at this, and I've been saying this for a little while. As much as I believe, and actually, Nico, will you pull up that the cycle comparison chart real quick, because it is starting to feel like these cycles are being elongated a little bit. Now, I know I've been saying for a little while, if we only got to the 2021 cycle, which was a disappointment, that would be like 200K today, basically. And it does look like where we are right now, even though it is kind of lining up, a lot of people have been saying it's lining up towards the 2017 cycle, which I actually truly enjoyed your back and forth with Checkmatey yesterday on Twitter. He's basically saying what we've been saying. Maybe as Bitcoiners are getting impatient, we're getting entitled. We need to lower our time frame.
Should I pull up that tweet?
Yeah, pull that up. Let's pull that up. And anyways, I'm saying all this to say it does feel like we are starting to see an elongated cycle. And if that plays out, then that would essentially mean that the 4-year cycle is dead. If we don't see a 2026 bear market, what a lot of us are thinking it's going to play out, even though I did post the other day kind of trolling, we are still, 3 green, 1 one red in play right now. So I'm still kind of holding out that it is starting
like
to feel.
It's like a 2% green.
Yeah, whatever. We're still green, bro. It's still what, 4 months into the year. Come on, dude. Stop being a bear. It is starting to feel like it's playing out around the 2017 cycle, because if you were around in 2017, it started to pump towards the end of the year. So if we're playing out like this, it could pump, Christmas time pumping, and then maybe it does kind of going into 2016 or 2026, it does go back into a bear market. But considering all the amount of Bitcoin that's being bought or allegedly being bought and the attention Bitcoin is getting, it does start to feel like we might be into this new cycle paradigm where it's more like a stepwise function. I've been kind of joking that like we're just going to see these stepwise functions going to go sideways, chop, and then we're going to see another stepwise, and we're just going to get bored to death here. But it does seem to be playing out this way, considering that now Bitcoin is becoming a macro asset. And of course, all the big capital that looks at Bitcoin, they don't look at it ideologically like we do. They look at it as something to kind of hedge their bets against global macro factors. And that means when there is something that happens in the fiat markets that scare them and spook them, they're going to, of course, sell the most sellable and liquid asset first, which is Bitcoin. So we are seeing some new indicators that Bitcoin is acting a little different. But I do like what Checkmatey is saying. And he's basically like, Nico, lower your time preference. You're too high time preference. Bitcoin is doing exactly what we want it to do. So here, you can cover this thread, and then we'll pass it over to Matty Ice.
Absolutely. So I posted this, it was on the 29th, and the way that things go viral on X, guys, is it usually you have to hit a heartstring. You have to hit something that is on the minds of a lot of people, because then it doesn't resonate with them, right? So, and I think the fact that this X post got a decent amount of engagements, specifically for the size of my account, tells me that a lot of people are thinking this. So I said what I said earlier. So I talk to Bitcoiners 5 days a week on Simply Bitcoin. We've had OGs, CEOs, and everyday Bitcoiners on the show. The general consensus this cycle: the price should be much higher, and no one has any idea what's going on. And who am I talking about? So I'll name some names. So we had Lop's an OG, CTO of one of our sponsors, Casa. Great product, by the way. Highly recommend. And he's basically like, look, Nico, I'm in a Telegram group with basically I'm in Telegram groups with like other OGs, and no one has any idea what's going on. And then, I've talked to Samson Mao, I've talked to Larry Lepard. Like, these are very intelligent people. It's the same thing. Like, I have no idea what's going on with the price. My dad, super smart guy. He's like, Bitcoin price is suppressed right now. Like, he's even telling me that. So this is like the general consensus this cycle. Like, people are like, yo, we see the news, we see the White House tweet. You know what would have happened to the price in 2017, 2018, if the White House tweeted a strategic Bitcoin reserve? Bro, we would have gone from $1,000, or in the beginning of 2017, we would have gone to 50K. Like, I'm not even in like a matter of like 3 or 4 months. Like, yes, like a 50X in that short amount of time. Because everything made like any type of, and a lot of it was fake, would just moon the price. Now, I get it. The market cap is bigger. It takes and this is what Checkmatey was saying, and we'll get to that in a second. And it's bigger, and it's more mature, and it's more whatever. But still, it kind of feels strange. So that's my personal opinion. At the end of the tweet, I said I'm not offering an opinion or emotion. That was in that tweet, but that's what I'm seeing. And I do this every day. And the days that I don't do it, I'm traveling, I'm doing podcasts. Opti does it Opti's a soldier. He does it 5 days a week, Simply Bitcoin Live. And he's seeing the same things too. So Checkmatey, who I actually had on Simply Bitcoin IRL somewhat recently, he has a more, obviously, Checkmatey's looking at all these all these analytics and all this data, and he has an incredible newsletter, by the way, highly recommend it. And he's like, look, like, calm the F down. People just don't understand how markets work. So he replied to my post and he said, perhaps, mate, This is a signal that people don't understand how markets work and are applying unrealistic expectations to the market. Plot price since the cycle low, and you'll see we were following the 2016-2017 cycle despite being 100 times larger today. For all the claims of low time preference, Bitcoiners need to practice some of it. And I responded, I get that, but I think it's just human nature, bro. If you lived through previous cycles, this one could feel like a letdown. Even as you said, Bitcoin is exactly where it should be. People are chasing the highs of past runs, chasing the dragon, so to speak. Checkmatey replies with, yes, they are, which is the only constant in markets, are emotions. As you noted, everyone from OGs to CEOs succumbs to their emotional biases in markets. In my honest opinion, and as someone who looks at Bitcoin market data for a living, this cycle is effing awesome. Bullish as folks are just bored and need to spend more time with their hobbies. If Bitcoin is your hobby, don't get swept up in the emotions. The reality is all there in the data. I mean, I agree with him. You should definitely go out. Like, if Bitcoin is your hobby, like, go outside and do something else. I completely agree with him on that part. The second part is that, yeah, look, from a data perspective, Bitcoin could be doing amazing. He could be absolutely right. But bro, this is not like, you're not getting the thrill that you were getting in 2017 and 2021. That's a fact. Like that I know for a fact. And I know a lot of other people feel that way. So yeah, I mean, perhaps again, from the data perspective that Checkmatey is talking about, and I agree with him, by the way, he's right. But you know, it's basically saying don't completely ignore your instincts, you know. So anyways, Stefan Livera replied and he says, disagree that the price should be much higher. I think this is actually playing out similar to 2017, say around April-ish. We had some run up, but the real craziness happened late 2017 in the last 3 months of the year. People need to zoom out. Troy Cross says, have me on in a few weeks, and when we get the next iteration of our survey out, have some insights. I'm actually going to message Troy. So yeah, I want to get your thoughts on this, Matty, as you know, a Bitcoin entrepreneur, as a Bitcoin business owner, and what are your thoughts on this current cycle? What are your thoughts on the 4-year cycle? Yeah, man, and also welcome to the show, bro.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, brother. It's nice to be here. How's everybody doing today?
Thanks for joining us.
There's a famous saying that says markets can remain irrational for much longer than you can remain solvent, right? So we host a local meetup here on the opposite side of Florida, on the nicer coast, and we teach everybody that comes, right, just dollar cost average. Don't try to don't try to time this, because like you said, right, there's 10 days. It could be 10 days out of the year where, you know, a lot of the action happens, right? Where the supply dries up and, you know, the demand bids high, and it's just, you know, you get that God candle, right? So we teach everybody dollar cost average. You know, fundamentally, all the stuff you're talking about could not be more bullish. You know, like the news, the fundamentals are just, it's honestly unbelievable if you really put everything together. One thing you didn't even hit on is like states forming their own Bitcoin, you know, strategic reserves, right? Like we're pushing hard here in Florida through the Florida Business Blockchain Association to, you know, orange pill all of the people from the inside of the system, right? We're working from the outside, but also from the inside of the system as well. And I think in Florida, I don't think a single person in Congress voted against the Bitcoin. Everybody voted yes, Republican, Democrat, whatever. It was like a unanimous vote, I believe. So, and then Arizona, I think, got it through the other day that they are going to have a Bitcoin strategic reserve. So companies, everything, couldn't be more bullish. We've got the 4-year cycles, right? You talked a lot about that, right? That's one side of the equation. So that's the supply side of the equation. Over time, you know, that is going to matter less and less because it doesn't affect the supply issuance as much. I think, though, as time goes on, it becomes much less significant. I think we still have a couple cycles where it does matter because it's a long-term supply constraint. And once we get kind of under 1 Bitcoin, where having, I think maybe 8 years from now will get us there. We've it's going to become less of an impact. But the demand to bid is changing drastically from all the things you guys talked about. So I think that is dwarfing structurally and fundamentally the supply side of things over probably the next 8 years. I think it's just, you've got this, as we approach that true absolute scarce number of 21 million, I think that the demand is just growing. I mean, we see it from nation states. I didn't really have nation states on my bingo card this cycle. I was thinking, okay, more companies, maybe states, but now we've got, huge governments coming into the equation, which fundamentally long-term, I mean, you couldn't possibly be more bullish, it's
Absolutely, man. I completely agree. By the way, I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. In total, between all platforms, we have about 1,900 live viewers. I want to give a shout out to, or I think it's actually 2,000. Yep. Oh, Rumble's popping off today. 352 live viewers on Rumble, 522 live viewers on YouTube, and on X, 1,200 live viewers. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. You are listening to Simply Bitcoin Live. I'm your host, Nico. It's my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields, always optimistic no matter what. And our special guest today, we got Matty Ice in the house. Guys, today is going to be a loaded show. We have tons to talk about. We have clips of Michael Saylor talking about $1 million Bitcoin. We have the president's son, Eric Trump, talking about how, listen, if banks don't adopt Bitcoin, they're going to get left behind. And of course, during the news segment, we have an update for you guys regarding the Samurai Wallet case. It should be interesting to talk about. And of course, during the culture segment, we're going to be talking to our guest about Bitcoin mining, because that's what he does. He does Bitcoin mining. So and I know a lot of you guys are paying attention to what's going on there. So it's going to be a hell of a show, guys. Lots of content, lots of breaking news to unpack. But before we do it, just smash that like button. Really helps with the algos and getting this message forward. So smash that like button. I'm going to set a like goal, actually. We are at 109 likes. Help us break 200 likes by the 45-minute show. All right, everybody, before we jump into it, I do want to give a very special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, by far the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. Why is this the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack? Because they do it right. They do it the right way. It's automatic self-custody. So when you buy Bitcoin on BitcoinWell, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. They don't even allow you to leave your Bitcoin on the exchange. And this perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/simply. And if you use that referral code, you have the opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis 3 times. So all you got to do, go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, sign up, takes 2 to 5 minutes. You automatically get 3 tosses into the wishing well, and you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshi. Just make your first purchase. And we're going to be doing it live for you guys right now. We're going to be playing the wishing well. By the way, every time you buy Bitcoin on BitcoinWell, you earn points, and you can use those points towards a stamp seed, towards a Simply Bitcoin hoodie, towards a Cybertruck. So we're going to be doing it live. Get your Lightning wallets ready. And first person to scan the QR code has won the prize. Bada bing, bada boom. First person to scan it has won 827 sats. So again, you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, sign up, make your first purchase. You get 3 tosses into the wishing well. Every single time you have an opportunity to win 1 million Satoshis. That's like $1,000. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. We have tons to talk about. We will be right back. I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure?
Are your seed words really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stampseed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
All right, everybody, we are back. I do want to go through. Oh, sorry about that. I do want to go through the numbers. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $93,920. Block height 894,628 sats per dollar, 1,065. Market cap 1.86 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 8.03%. Percentage issued 94.56%. Decline from all-time high, negative 14%. Realized monetary inflation 0.84%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting the party started. Anyways, here's a clip of Michael Saylor talking about how banks getting involved is going to shoot Bitcoin's price to $1 million per coin.
The industry is growing up. It's becoming more secure. It will be accepted by banks. I'll leave it at this thought, which is when your bank tells you they'll buy Bitcoin for you and they'll make it really easy and you can do it on the phone, it'll cost you $1 million Bitcoin. And when your bank calls you on the phone and says, you know, you really ought to buy Bitcoin. It's a digital monetary alternative. And when they recommend it, it'll cost you $10 million of Bitcoin. And right now, no bank's going to recommend it, and they're not going to help you buy it, and you're going to have to jump through hoops, and you're going to feel really nervous about it, but you'll get to buy it around $100,000.
So, I mean, kind of self-explanatory. And now here's Eric Trump talking about what's going to happen to banks if they don't jump on the Bitcoin train.
Our banking system is broken. Our banking system is antiquated. Our banking system favors the ultra wealthy. And what actually got me into it is the fact that I realized our banking system, it was weaponized against the vast majority of people in our country, either the people that don't have the zeros on their balance sheet or people who might have worn that red hat that said, make America great again. And it forced me into the crypto world. And I'm telling you, if the
I mean, boom, bam, bing, right? It's kind of self-explanatory. It's instinct. That's some very strong wording from the president of the United States' son. And I think it's happening. Despite all the shenanigans that happened last year, despite the hostility from the Fed and the previous administration, you can't stop this train. You can't stop this train. So I mean, connect the dots, right? The banks are coming. We just told you guys during the opening segment. We were talking about Merrill. I mean, these are Wells Fargo, right? They're all looking at Bitcoin differently. And Michael Saylor saying like, look, when that happens, it's going to be at $1 million. It's going to be too late to buy Bitcoin. And then Eric saying like, look, it's not only that they're interested, but if they don't do it, they risk going out of business, period. Right. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's probably a good idea. It's probably a good idea to get some just in case it catches on. I think it's safe to say it's caught on now. But let's just say the train is moving. Have you seen those? Have you guys seen the movies, right? Where like the train is left and they're like running. And then it's like, oh, I got to jump on the caboose. The caboose is like the last train car, right? So like it's like that. The train has started to move, and you still have the opportunity to jump onto the caboose, onto the back of the train. But if you wait 5 more minutes, you're going to miss it. And then Opti's going to go outside of the caboose on the railing, and he's going to wave at you because it's going to be too and laugh because it's going to be too late to jump on the Bitcoin train. So don't wait. I mean, it's already left the station, but you could still jump on the caboose if you stack some sats right now. Anyways, I want to get Matty's thoughts. Matty, what are your thoughts? Those are some pretty strong words by the president's son, basically saying that banks are going to go in like extinct if they don't jump on the Bitcoin train. What are your thoughts, man?
I think you got a little taste of the whole choke point thing when the system was weaponized against him and his family the last 4 years. That's not even the best clip. There's another clip of him saying like, where he's like, hey, I'm all in on this stuff. Like, I get it. I understand it. Like, I think it was about a week or two ago where he was like, I think he said something along the line of like, I'm living and breathing this shit now. Like, it was like, he gets it, right? Like when you start getting bank accounts shut down and you can't access the system, you got a little taste of what happened to all of us for the past, 4 to 8 years. So I think he's not playing around. He's all in on this, right? Yeah.
100%. He's definitely all on. He's definitely all in on this. I mean, his family has exposure. His dad won on that policy, ending Operation Choke Point 2.0. Opti, what are your thoughts of this? I know that Opti's a huge Trump fan. Like, he is MAGA through and through. So, and that train that's leaving the station, that's a MAGA train, and Opti's the conductor.
I don't know about all that, but anyways.
I think it's an important point though, is that Bitcoin is for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Like whether you love the person, hate the person.
I disagree. I don't think
it's for anybody.
I think Bitcoin is for anybody. I don't think Bitcoin is for everybody.
Oh, okay. I see. You're playing.
Yeah, important distinction there. Okay. Well, really look, first of all, guys, you probably
I want to have one last thought on the last topic, because you talked about Wells Fargo and Merrill Lynch and all these different things. I just got back from a trip on a deployment with, an aspect of our business recently that's really taking off is our curated mining stuff, where we've got essentially investor partners and we're deploying mining operations for them. And like over the past 6 months, it's just absolutely exploded. But we had a conversation in the past couple of weeks with somebody at Wells Fargo, who has like $500 million under management, and his people keep coming in and asking him like, hey, like, I want to get into this crypto stuff. I want to be involved. I want to be in Bitcoin. Like, what's going on? Right. So he's like, people keep coming, asking to me. He's like, we're almost to the point where like, I'm able to provide some, hey, you've got this opportunity over here. Hey, you've got this opportunity. You can do Bitcoin mining over here. So it's coming, and we're getting ready for a new influx of demand that isn't quite there yet. But I've got this guy that I've been talking to, and it's the second that he's got the green light, like we're already having conversations, right? So I just want to say that like more and more demand is coming, and the floodgates are opening for our industry. So just wanted to kind of chime in on that, because I know just to provide some context, because you guys mentioned some of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that is signal here. Like, and as I was going to say, I think everyone that watches the show that sees me rant about this stuff constantly knows I'm not the biggest fan of banks, period. Obviously, I did kind of fall into the whole Bitcoin, be your own bank meme when I first got into Bitcoin, because we all know what happened in 2008. And literally that was the defining moment when I became an adult. And, the whole Occupy Wall Street meme kind of came out. And then we really didn't have the solution then. And we all know that Bitcoin came out of that. And that was the creation, or basically the defining moment for launching Bitcoin. It was in the Genesis block. And so, that's like my caveat on banks in general. But what I think a lot of people are learning, and especially like Matty was saying, if anyone can see the use case for Bitcoin, it's obviously going to be the Trump family when they had the whole system weaponized against him, against them. Love or hate the guy, he's seen, the brunt end of the stick here, and that's why they probably understand Bitcoin so well. And of course, they are kind of store of value maxis, and so they're starting to, I think they really are getting into Bitcoin genuinely and authentically. And yes, maybe they're going through the shitcoin phase, etc. But they are starting to see that the true value of Bitcoin, which all of us talk about constantly. Now, when you really compare Bitcoin to like the banking system, it's just so obvious when you understand that Bitcoin is just better technology. Like we all know, especially here at Simply Bitcoin, we've been covering the SWIFT system constantly, how payments work, how store of values work. So like if you just connect the payments, the payment rails that the world has currently via the different banks, and then you also understand fiat currency and how it can't store your value, it becomes very clear. And then of course the weaponization of the banking system and deplatforming, et cetera, a lot of the things that are hot button topics in just culture today, cancel culture, the broken system that is fiat money, inflation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It all points to Bitcoin, and it really just highlights the fact that Bitcoin is better technology. It is better money tech. And we're starting to see that more people are learning this. And as we kind of said in the beginning of this, I do genuinely believe in the idea of Bitcoin is for anybody, not necessarily everybody. Everybody maybe doesn't see the use case for Bitcoin, but it is for anybody that does see the use case of Bitcoin. Of course, permissionless, et cetera, et cetera. We constantly cover all this stuff. And hey, you got to be okay with even your worst enemies getting into Bitcoin. And, personally, you could argue that the banks are our worst enemies here as just an individual, someone that's outside of, the Overton window here, someone that's more of a quote unquote, I can't even use the word here, but it starts with an E, and you already know I say it all the time on the show. But you start to see that everything does point towards, hey, eventually the institutions, the banks themselves, and even central banks, we've seen this play out around the world, are going to get into Bitcoin. And when I'm being kind of objective about it, like the very people that are essentially pushing the fiat system, if they understand what the underlying piping of the system is, then they have to see what we see. And of course, they're trying to find a solution, which I would argue is Bitcoin. So the fact that we're seeing, potentially the biggest banks in the world, and further the biggest nation state in the world, the biggest institutional managers in the world, all start to kind of perk up and open their minds to what the use case of Bitcoin is, I think is a signal here and showing what is the trend going on. People are understanding, there's something fundamentally broken here or something wrong, and maybe it's just a smoke signal right now, but people are looking to position themselves correctly. And maybe that statement of banks will be gone in 10 years a little hyperbolic. I'm not one of these Bitcoiners that think banks are going to go away forever. I think there will be Bitcoin banks. I am more on the lines of Bitcoin will make central banks obsolete, but I think there will be Bitcoin banks in the future. So I don't think necessarily banks are over, but I do think that Trump, what was that? Was Eric Trump was onto something when he's basically saying, like, look, if these banks don't adapt, then their business models are going away. They're the dinosaurs here. And I think that's the main signal. And I think that's what a lot of people are, kind of naive about. It's like, look, we need a fundamental change in the system currently. And I think this is what all the social upheaval is all about, is people are looking for different solutions because we all understand, look, something has to change. The way we've been going, the status quo that we are currently on isn't working for the majority of people. It's only working for a small percentage of people that are, close to the money printers, and people want change. Now, the solutions or, the answers to that, everyone kind of has their own view on this. Of course, us Bitcoiners are like, look, let's start with the money. The money is broken, and then we can figure everything out afterwards. So I think there is fundamental point there where it's like, look, if they don't adapt, they will perish. And I think that's the main signal, and more people don't understand what's going on. Obviously, they're stuck in the rat race that, they probably don't have enough time to put in 40 hours a week to listen to Bitcoin podcasts, but they should. And people are starting to wake up to this idea, like, something has to change, something will give. And of course, we're over here like, just stack Bitcoin and take it into custody. It's really this simple. Run it, stack Bitcoin, take it into cold storage, and this is how you can survive.
Amen. Amen to that. All right, everybody. We still got a jam-packed show for you guys today. We have tons to talk about. The next thing we're going to talk about, which I'm excited to talk about, is an update on the Samurai wallet case. And apparently, there has been someone got socially engineered, and they got $330 million stolen from them. So we're going to try to get to all those stories during the news segment. So much to unpack. And then we're going to be talking to Mr. Matty Ice about Bitcoin mining during the culture segment. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, we got 2,500 people watching live. Rumble's absolutely popping off. 427 live viewers on Rumble alone, 560 on YouTube, and 1,589 on X. If you guys are enjoying the show, like I said, smash that like button. Help us break 250 likes by the time the show ends. We're at 263. Help us get to at least 100. Smash that like button if you guys are enjoying today's show. All right, everybody, let's hit the news segment. We have tons to talk about. We will be right back. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Casa makes self-custody easy and secure. As a Bitcoiner, I care about holding my own private keys, but multi-sig can sometimes get tricky. Casa nails it with a multi-key security. So even if one key gets lost or stolen, your Bitcoin stays safe. And you don't give up custody, meaning no one could access your Bitcoin but you. No seed phrase anxiety, no single point of failure. I've been telling my friends and family about Casa for years. Their UX and UI on their app is by far the best in the industry. Inheritance planning is built in, and they even offer Casa for Business if you're thinking about a Bitcoin treasury. Hit up casa.io today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium. Head over to casa.io.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, CoinKite. If you take your Bitcoin security seriously, you'll need the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market to take self-custody. That's where Cold Card comes in. The Cold Card Q is the most advanced Bitcoin signing device ever made. It's got a full keyboard, larger screen, and NFC support, making air-gap signing easier than ever. It's built for power users who want the ultimate security without sacrificing usability. And if you're looking for a battle-tested, uncompromising cold storage, the Cold Card MK4 is your go-to with PSBT signing, an industrial-grade secure element, and USB-C. It's the perfect blend of security and convenience. Both devices are, of course, 100% Bitcoin only, open source, and built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Secure your Bitcoin the right way with the Cold Card Q and the MK4. Head over to coldcard.com today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the store.
All right, everybody, this is Opti, and he is holding the Cold Card Q. Guys, this is Opti. Could you take it out a little bit? It's zoomed. It's not focused. There we go. It is the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market right now, completely open source. It has an A to Z keyboard. This is our daily driver here at Simply Bitcoin. It's incredibly easy to use, believe it or not. It's like tap, click, and you can send it. Guys, it's an awesome Bitcoin hardware wallet. This is the one to get. You can tap, you can scan, you can do the SD card, you can plug the USB-C, and if you use promo code SIMPLY, you get 5% off anything on the Cold Card store. So head over to coldcard.com today, use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off. Anyways, I do want to talk about this story. We had the Samurai story and then this story. I want to talk about this story because this is effing crazy. And we were just talking about self-custody. This is why you should self-custody. You should self-custody because I think it's a little bit harder to get socially engineered. Like if you leave your Bitcoin on the exchange, the problem is the reason that they get away with this is, and I'm sure you guys have at least received a text message or two basically saying your Coinbase account has been compromised. For me, what's interesting about that, like I get like 100 of those text messages. Like it's crazy. And what's interesting about that though, is it's like, dude, I don't even have a fucking Coinbase account. I've never created a Coinbase account, right? But essentially what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to click on the link and then put in your email address, put in your password, and boom, they have access to your Coinbase. But these social engineering attacks could get extremely sophisticated. You'll get a phone call. The people will act like they're part of Coinbase and they'll say, hey, your account has been compromised, and they'll try to get information and data. I'm telling you, they're sophisticated social engineering attacks. It's not as simple as a phishing email. It's not as simple as getting an email, from a fake Coinbase, whatever. It's not as simple as that. Like, they will study their targets. They will get to know who their parents are, who their grandparents are. They'll call you and they'll say, hey, look, this person. They'll convince you that they are an official representative of that said exchange, right? So this is why I think self-custody is incredibly important, especially if you do it right. Like our sponsor Casa is awesome because they will literally make sure that this does not happen to you. They have like a concierge service for like the higher tiers, but the premium tier is great, right? It's like 3 out of 5, right? Like, it makes it incredibly difficult for you to get socially engineered or for you to just lose one of your keys and then lose access to your Bitcoin. So check out Cold Card, check out Casa. They're great. Anyways, let's get to the article. The article is by Cointelegraph, and at the top it says the headline is $330 million Bitcoin social engineering theft victim is elderly U.S. citizen. An elderly U.S. individual is reportedly the victim of a devastating $330 million Bitcoin heist, now ranked as the 5th largest crypto hack in history. The attacker used advanced social engineering attacks to gain access to the victim's wallet. On-chain investigator Zach XBT said an April 30th update on X. The hack took place on April 28, 2025, when Zach XBT flagged a suspicious transfer involving 3,520 Bitcoin, valued at $330 million. Following the transfer, the stolen stash was quickly laundered through over 6 instant exchanges and swapped into privacy-focused cryptocurrency Monero. On-chain data suggests that the victim had held over 3,000 Bitcoin since 2017 with no prior history of large-scale transactions. They go on to say, once stolen, the attacker wasted no time laundering the Bitcoin using a peel chain method, a common obfuscation technique in which large sums are broken into smaller, harder to trace chunks. The $330 million in BTC was received in 2 transactions, then immediately distributed via peel chains. Funds started to flow into multiple instant exchanges / mixers with small amounts. Then mixers were distributing funds across multiple new wallets. The biggest funneling chain is now consistent of 40 plus wallets. Over 300 wallets and 20 exchanges were involved. Hacken's internal tool, Extractor, tracked $284 million worth of BTC funneled through these chains, which now amounts to around 60 million after repeated peeling and redistribution across low credibility exchanges. One of the authors said over 300 hacker wallets and 20 exchanges or payment services were involved, including Binance. Cointelegraph has reached out to Binance for comment. Quote, major problem in cases like this is that freezing centralized exchange accounts used in the laundering process is hardened due to particularly slow legal process of police reporting and investigations. Adding to the complexity, the attacker rapidly converted a significant portion of BTC into Monero. The move triggered a 50% surge in Monero's price, with the token briefly reaching $339. Once funds are swapped into Monero, tracing becomes virtually impossible due to its privacy-preserving architecture. The chance of recovering drops significantly after this step. Anal said that the attacker likely had pre-established accounts across multiple exchanges and OTC desks, suggesting a high degree of premeditation. A small portion of stolen BTC was also bridged to Ethereum and deposited into various platforms, further complicating tracking efforts. Investigators have since alerted exchanges for potential freezing of funds. No familiar laundering tactics. Zach XBT has previously dismissed the theory that North Korea's Lazarus Group could have been behind the attack, suggesting independent hackers were responsible. While attribution remains uncertain, experts agree that laundering tactics show rare automation and coordination for heists of this magnitude. Quote, so far, we haven't been able to confidently link this activity to any known hacker group, as the laundering methods used, while sophisticated, don't clearly match the significant patterns of previously identified actors. He recommended using multi-sig wallets, this is why we recommend Casa here at Simply Bitcoin, to eliminate single points of failure, minimizing exposure to hot wallets connected to the internet, which is why we recommend taking self-custody, get yourself a cold card, regularly rotating private keys, and relying on hardware-based cold storage to safeguard large Bitcoin holdings. Cold card, Casa, match made in heaven, boom, bam, bing, your Bitcoin is safe. In the first quarter of 2025, hackers stole more than $1.6 billion worth of crypto from exchanges and on-chain smart contracts, blockchain security, PeckShield said in a report, an April report. Anyways, this is effing crazy. This is nuts. Can you imagine holding since 2017? You're holding 3,000 Bitcoin. That's an absurd amount of Bitcoin. And you get social engineered and all that Bitcoin goes boof. And then they try to funnel it through Monero. And, it becomes essentially, basically almost impossible to recover. Right. So anyways, man, this is pretty crazy. I mean, the article, the article claims, the article kind of points it out, it itself, right? Like, this is why multi-sig is important. Multi-sig is complicated. Casa makes it easy. They recommends a hardware wallet. You got to get the best hardware wallet in the business, which is the cold card. But yeah, this is pretty effing crazy. I don't think this person's going to get their Bitcoin back. And if they do, they'll get a small portion of it. But most of that is, most of that is probably, kind of gone forever. So anyhow, do you guys have any thoughts on this, man? This is crazy. This is sad. This is very, very sad. What I will say too is, for someone to have, I'm reading a lot of this on X, right? $330 million net worth would make them richer than 99.99% of people alive. And they wouldn't be a billionaire, but they would be a centimillionaire. So someone who's worth 100 million or more. And that's easily in the top 0.0001% of wealth globally. So it was a massive hack. I think it was targeted. I 100% believe it was targeted. I think they knew exactly who this person was and what buttons to press, figuratively and literally. And I think that, they were able to come up with this heist, which is pretty effing crazy. And this is why, guys, we emphasize, get yourself a hardware wallet, check out Casa. These are all companies that are going to make self-custody easy for you and protect you from these types of social engineering attacks, which, by the way, I suspect are just going to increase in sophistication from here. Anyways, I want to get Matty's thoughts and then Opti.
Yeah, the attacks are getting extremely sophisticated, which is why education is so important. You know, it's hard for me to believe that somebody's holding $330 million and hasn't done the due diligence of, really learning and understanding how these systems work, right? How Bitcoin works, how a blockchain is immutable. So I feel terrible. I mean, I feel bad for that individual. It really, really sucks. But I've known so many people over so long, and you kind of get in this industry and you get your education the hard way a lot of times. And it's sad. It really is, especially when elderly people are taken advantage of. But I think it's an argument, yes, absolutely, for self-custody, but also for split custody, right? If you have $330 million, each type of custody has different risks. Like I personally have funds in hot wallets and cold wallets on exchanges through, derivatives of ETFs and micro strategies, right? So if you spread that risk around across all different, variables, I think it's impossible to get taken advantage of to that magnitude where you lose everything, right? So, there are risks that come with, trusting third parties, and there's also risks that come with you have to be responsible yourself, right? So, at our local Bitcoin meetups, we deal with this all the time where, it sucks. And, we walk through individuals who they come to the Bitcoin meetup and they tell us a sob story about what happens. And, we have to walk them through and kind of build them up and help them start from scratch, teach them about self-custody, help them set up, a cold wallet, and really have them really understand the instructions of, hey, this seed phrase is like, this is your key to all of your money, right? Like if you give this to anybody, it's like giving it to a stranger at a gas station. It's like giving your wallet. The analogy that I always use is like if somebody met you at 7-Eleven and said, hey, you go inside and get your food, let me hold your wallet for you with all your money in it, like someone that you've never met before. It's the same thing, if you give somebody your seed phrase. So it's an argument for a personal responsibility, which Bitcoin is. Bitcoin really is like represents personal responsibility in so many ways, right? So yeah, sad situation. What do you got, Opti?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the biggest part for me is, and I always get crap because I usually, am not so nice to boomers, but elderly person holding 3,000 coins since 2017, like that is, I think, signal here of like, hey, there's some people with deep wallets that are, or some of the whales here are not just young kids into this, and I think that's kind of a very interesting point of the story. And I was trying to look at the thread in this article. It doesn't really say it as well, but it's still unclear whether this was coming from an exchange or like a personal cold storage of sorts. So either way, it's the point still remains the same. The social engineering is getting pretty complicated and complex. And I think this is only going to increase. And this is why, the education of how to hold your Bitcoin is super important. And one of the things I was kind of reminded is if you guys watched Junsys podcast, and he was talking with the social engineering hacker kids. So if you haven't seen those, I highly recommend you guys go watch those, and you can kind of see what they, what they do to social engineer you. He is very small claims on Twitter. I forget what his podcast is called, but he recorded a couple of these, and there was actually another one. I think it was I forget who it was. It might have been Phil Geiger or someone from Unchained, I believe. Oh, no, it was Casa. It was Nick Newman who also recorded one of these. So like, if this is something that you're interested in, there is, live examples and recordings of how this process plays out. Now, I think the main thing here is probably like, if you do get some of these emails or scam text about it, just completely ignore them. As Matty was saying, like, you shouldn't be giving people any of this information at all. And obviously there is unfortunate situations where people just wreck themselves, but this is the importance. Like, look, I don't mean to be crass here, but if you're holding 3,000 Bitcoin, you should probably, look into self-custodying that Bitcoin like very diligently and take the risk as if it's worth, your life, because that is a shit ton of money, losing.
Or at least having the advice, right? Like,
yeah,
pay for some experts, right? That's the perfect market opportunity for, Casa, like you guys mentioned, as a sponsor. Like, it just shows you how early we are with everything. Like, there's huge opportunity for Bitcoin companies and companies in the space right? To step up here and fill this niche, fill this void, and reach these people, right? That have $300 million in a hot wallet or an exchange wallet, right? Like, don't know what they're doing, don't understand, like, crazy. I mean, like, if I got $330 million worth of something, I'm going to pay $100,000 to have, experts guide me, help me, educate me, whatever it may be, really do the due diligence, right? So.
Yeah, totally. It's definitely a crazy story. And, my heart goes out to that person. I could only imagine what they're feeling. I also, when I was first in Bitcoin, I got scammed from some coin, and I know how that felt. And it was nowhere near as much as 3,000 Bitcoin. So, that's devastating, absolutely devastating. So, that's unfortunate to hear, but I think our points are being made that there is a lot of tools out there to help yourself, and shouts out to all the companies out there that are insuring and making sure that people are cold storing it.
Casa,
correctly.
go check out Casa.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's in the video description, the podcast description. Even if your computer gets compromised, even if you click on the email, again, they'll protect you from these types of shenanigans. And of course, get yourself a hardware wallet, the best one in the industry, which is the Cold Card. You can use promo code Simply to get 5% off. By the way, if you sign up to Casa and use the promo code Simply or the link, you get 10% off to the different Casa tiers. So anyways, guys, we're going to get to the culture segment. We're going to be talking to Mr. Matty Ice about Bitcoin mining. So we will be right back. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledin has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally not only have an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledin is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially, what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to hodl while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you today. Simply Bitcoin viewers get 0.25% off their first loan by using the link in the video/podcast description. What are you waiting for? Head over to ledin.io today. All right, everybody. Rumble viewers flipped. Oh my God, Rumble viewers.
It did for a second. Now it's tied. Apparently,
Rumble viewers are tied with YouTube viewers. Shout out to the Rumble audience. Big breaking, massive breaking, air horn opti, please. So we got Mr. Matty Ice in the house. Matty Ice is a Bitcoin entrepreneur, Bitcoin miner. Matty, how you doing, man? How is the mining industry doing right now with this chop solidation? Are you alive? Are you okay?
Well,
do you need CPR?
No, we're good, man. I mean, really, it's all about strategy, right? So that there's a lot that goes into it, but you want to try to get solid machines with low electric rates, right? So, if you set up your operation strategically, right, you can still be alive and doing very well and positioned for, a massive price increase at some point, which is Bitcoin mining is very similar to, dollar cost averaging and holding Bitcoin. Like you said, there's these short periods of time that make it very, very worthwhile, right? Mining is much the same way, where you want to be deployed, you want to have your machines operating, because it's very hard to put up machines. It takes a lot of time. It's extremely CapEx intensive. It's very hard to build out infrastructure for mining at scale. So you have to kind of do the work ahead of time. You can't just, oh, Bitcoin's going crazy, miners are making a lot of money, and then you try to deploy, which is pretty much what happened with all the public mining companies last cycle. And they're just, getting wrecked at the top, taking loans and margin at the top. Quick detour though. Your sponsor Ledin, that's a prime example. We talked about Bitcoin banks, like that banks will exist in the future. There's a prime example of it, right? Like Bitcoin banking at its core, you have this hardest money to ever exist, this pristine collateral that you can borrow fiat off of. I mean, that's like, it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. And again, the Bitcoin is, again, the best collateral in the world, and you don't want to sell your Bitcoin. So, obviously Ledin allows you to do that, right? So, but again, these are all like tools that, you can use to your advantage, to obviously, enjoy or make this utilize Bitcoin to achieve your financial goals or financial goals, and also sovereignty too. Like, let's be honest here. Like, that's what Bitcoin does. It helps you achieve sovereignty from not only financially, but sovereignty. It gives you the ability to vote with your feet, which I think is extremely, extremely powerful. So let's talk a little bit more about mining, man. So you were essentially making the case that, like, look, like, it's all about essentially, buying the right machines at the right time, right locations. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So we've got machines everywhere, different generations of machines, but depending on, the machine, you're willing to take more risk in certain scenarios because they're older or they're cheaper and you have lower electricity rates and sketchier jurisdictions, I guess I would say. Or you've got newer machines that you want to place in locations that you feel have stronger property rights. You feel safer with them there. You might be paying a little bit higher electricity cost, but it's worth it because you've got, state-of-the-art machines. Kind of like if you're thinking about iPhones, right? There's the brand new Pro Max, this current model, right? Like, that model is the most profitable, and you can pay a little bit higher electric rate. And you want to have that in a safer spot. It's a more expensive machine. But if you've got like iPhone 15s from like, 2 generations, you can place those in other jurisdictions and other locations. They're very cheap. And, you search out the cheapest power, which also might coincide with being in a riskier jurisdiction politically or, any other kind of risk like that.
Yeah, 100. So different machines, different jurisdictions. Obviously, that's working to your advantage from like a regulatory perspective. Now, could you talk a little bit about the different sites that you guys have? So, are you guys using hydro? Are you guys using like grid energy? What are you guys using?
Literally everything, everything and all of the above, right? Like, I just visited a natural gas site. I'm on 2 hours of sleep right now. I just got back flew into Kansas City. It was a nightmare. There were storms. We spent 7 hours sitting in St. Louis and, arrived at 5 a.m. yesterday, 6 a.m., had to see a site at 9 a.m., flew back last night, got stuck in Charlotte, had to go to West Palm Beach and, take an Uber 3 hours back to my house here in South Florida. So it's been crazy, but every kind of, setup you could imagine, right? Like, I'm going to Abu Dhabi in 2 days to visit a site there. That's a natural gas in the middle of the desert, right? So,
have you seen that mining has expanded? Because if you look at the hash rate, has mining expanded, or has it? What is the state of the mining industry today?
Well, it's competitive right now because hash rate keeps going up and the price hasn't, necessarily coincided with that. So it does require, a level of know-how to make sure that you're deploying efficiently and you're not going to be in the red, right? That you can make sure you're in the green so you can be alive when, all the fundamentals come in play and, price does what we all think it will do, right? So you'll really capture that arbitrage, that spread. But yeah, I mean, mining difficulty right now is near all-time highs, right? There's which is fundamentally bullish. It means that people believe in this network. They believe in providing security for this network. They believe this network is going to grow, right? Like we talked about all the fundamentals and stuff that you mentioned earlier. Like that's why, I'm seeing all this and like I'm just deploying. And we have a aspect of our business that has taken off recently where we've got others that are coming to us with millions and saying, hey, deploy. I was like, okay, we'll do it, right? Which historically we started my company. I literally started in a bedroom in my house, right? Like back in 2015, and just kind of scaled and bootstrapped. And we've historically just deployed our own stuff. But you guys know John Drew, who's running Bitcoin Day. So he's the head of. He's like the head of our curated mining stuff, and he's been doing a great job and just brought in a lot of new investors that we partner, and we basically act as the property manager and bring our expertise to the equation and just deploy their capital, set it up in an LLC for the depreciation expenses you can get on the machines, which is a lot of investors like that. And we just manage everything end to end, and we get sweat equity in the entity. So if it makes money, we all make money. If it doesn't, we don't make any money. Nobody makes money. So got to be very strategic deploying that capital and lean on a decade of experience of know-how, of knowing how to do it effectively, efficiently, and profitably.
That's
hey, Matty,
awesome.
I have a question here. Maybe
Yeah.
for the audience out here, we do get a lot of people asking us, like, is now a good time to be mining? Should I go into mining? There's a lot of talks about maybe, I can't do it myself, maybe host miners, et cetera, et cetera. So from your opinion, someone that's been doing this for a long time, is now a good time to, think about mining versus just DCAing? Like, what would be your take on that conversation?
The way I look at mining is like dollar cost averaging on steroids, right? Like you're buying this machine that is contributing security to the Bitcoin blockchain. You're participating in the system. You're really understanding this idea of cost of production, right? Because there's a real cost. There's an energy cost of proof of work that you have to pay, right? And then you get Bitcoin that's worth more than that, hopefully, if you're doing it well. So there's that arbitrage there. So I think it's always a good time to get into mining if like, at least on a small scale, like if you want to just contribute to the system, start as a hobby, learn about it. There's plenty of hosting sites you can use just to get your feet wet. If you want to do it through a host, there's Blockware, there's stuff like Compass, where you can just buy one or two machines and just get your feet wet, right? Like understand it. I really love Blockware. Those guys are really good over there. So, we work closely with them. We deploy a lot of our customers that come to us, that partners, we deploy with a lot of their facilities and have really good negotiations and deals with them. But just to get your feet wet, to understand the economics of it, or you can go online and buy like a BitAxe, or you could buy like an older S9 and put it in your garage, right? So just to kind of understand, you can hear the actual computer, the machine, the ASIC really hum, like a Cyber Hornet. Or those little BitAxes are really small. You can just plug it in your computer and you can kind of get an idea of what mining really is. But if you're going to go at scale and do stuff, I don't recommend just jumping into that if you don't know what you're doing, right? You're going to get burned. And we saw that with a lot of publicly traded companies that did this last cycle and really had no business. Like I'm looking at what they're doing. I'm like, what the fuck are these guys doing? They're like buying S19K Pros at like $15,000 a machine, like at the peak of a cycle. I'm like, these guys are going to get wrecked. Like who is giving them money to do this? Like, this is insane, right? Because, once you've been through a couple cycles, you learn from experience, you kind of see you get an understanding of it. So this industry, everything, we're still, I believe, still in its infancy, very much so in its infancy. So, and I think
even now, you would say that we are still, Bitcoin is still in its infancy.
I really think so, man. If you look at the scale of capital in the world and the trillions and trillions of dollars of value, and you like Bitcoin's at like 2 trillion, gold's at like 25 trillion or something like that. And like, there's like negative yielding bonds at 20 trillion, other bonds at hundreds of trillion. Like it's just, we're so early still. And then I think as time goes on too, there's geopolitical aspects of the equation, right? If Bitcoin really ends up being what we truly believe it will be, right, which is like this decentralized global money that is like the base layer for all of humanity, right? Like it's going to be important if you want to make sure that your transactions aren't censored, to have hash rate within your country, to have hash rate within your borders if you're a nation state, right? So there's all sorts of levels to this thing, but yeah, I still think we're very, very early. That's my personal opinion.
Dude, I mean, bro, that's absolutely crazy. Like specifically with like,
Thomas
you know,
Martinez. I'm mining with 2 BitX gamblers right now. I'll be crushing Matty Ice once I win the Bitcoin lottery. Good luck, brother. Honestly, I hope you hit it, Thomas. I really do, bro. Unfortunately, I've got like investor partners and like we've got to mine on a pool because we have the electric bills are like 6-7 figures. So we can't be playing the lottery, but I love it. I'm so happy when people hit a lottery, hit the get to solve the block and win but I mean, do realize that you're literally playing the lottery. I mean, that's what that is, right?
That's literally what it is. But there is going to be a winner. There is going to be a winner, right? You're literally playing the lottery, but there is going to be a winner. Anyways, Opti, do you have any more questions for Matt?
I mean, I do, but I really want to get just Matty's take on what do you think about the whole BitX phenomenon going on? Not only them getting solo blocks, but more people, getting interested in Bitcoin mining, and the cost of entry is literally what, like $120 or something like that. Do you think this will have an actual effect on the decentralization of hash power, or is this just kind of like a growing fad?
I don't think it's going to have it. I personally don't believe it. I mean, it's such a small scale. So you've got to realize, like, when you look at one of these S21s or ASICs, it's like you've got 4 hash boards inside these machines, multiple hash boards. And on those hash boards, each hash board has, hundreds of little chips, right? So what a BitX is just one tiny little, like one or two of those little chips, and they put it on a little thing that you can plug in a USB drive. So it's more, in my mind, it's more educational. And it's like a lottery thing, right? Like you're playing the lottery and people have hit it, right? So, I don't hate on it at all. I think it's, it's cool. It's interesting. You can learn. It's educational to really understand, okay, this thing, you see this thing on your computer and you hear it and like, you can feel the heat. It's like, even though it's super small, like okay, this thing's using energy and it's providing hash rate to the Bitcoin network. So I would say it's more of an educational thing. Looks like we got Skip on down the road. He has a question. If your cost of electricity is over 4 cents per kilowatt hour, why the fuck would you mine at home? Well, Skip, it really depends on your machine, right? So like, I know if you're mining with the state-of-the-art machines at home with like an S21, XP or whatever, like your cost of power could be 10 cents and you'd still be technically in the green, right? You'd be making more Bitcoin than you would be losing, right, by paying electricity. So you would be above that spread. Now, if you're mining with a S9 or an older machine, no, like, yeah, you're going to be in the red. You might technically be getting non-KYC Bitcoin, but you're going to be paying more than you would if you were just buying it on an exchange, right? So there are a lot of factors besides just the cost per kilowatt hour, right? Like, so that's just one factor of the equation is how good is the machine, right? If the machine's state of the art, like, yeah, you can mine at home in the green with 1 or 2. I mean, you're going to use a lot of power and it's going to be really loud and your wife's going to kick you, be really upset if you're doing it in the garage and the neighbors are going to complain, but you technically could do it.
Yeah, 100. I mean, it's funny we're talking about lottery tickets. I yesterday went to the gas station. I saw this guy. He looked pretty well off, like he was probably in his 50s, late 40s. And he was buying lottery tickets. And in my head, I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like, I know it's like a game and people like it, but it made no sense to me. I'm like, why are you buying lottery tickets? And then you go down the whole like fiat, like this is a encapsulation of the fiat culture. People spend a couple dollars to try to get rich. But in my head, just as a Bitcoiner, I'm like, what's a better move? Just like stacking that $10, $15, $20 or, buying lottery tickets. But I know people love lottery tickets. And I was just thinking it's probably never going away. Or,
people have been gambling. Like we found like ancient bones from like hundreds of thousands of years ago in a cave, and like they've got markings on it. When people are gambling, like it's just part of people like that, like have fun. They like to gamble. There's no reason you can't do both. There's no reason you can't buy a BitX, plug it in your computer, let it run for 2 years, and maybe win the lottery. At the same time, still stack $20, $30 of Bitcoin per day or per week, whatever your situation is, right? I mean, you could do both, or put a miner in your garage and just pay the electric bill, which is kind of like dollar cost averaging, and like you're making more Bitcoin than you're paying, right? So there's nothing's mutually exclusive, I don't think.
Yeah, totally. All right, Matty. Well, we are getting towards the end of the show, and I do want to give you one last opportunity. What would be the last advice to the audience from a Bitcoiner that's been around since 2015? It could be about mining, it could be about Bitcoin, whatever the last piece of advice you want to give to the audience, what would it be?
All right. I would say play long-term games with long-term people. There's that aspect of it, and just dollar cost average and tune out like the short-term stuff is like, it's whatever, but like look at the big picture. I mean, Bitcoin is the best performing asset in all of human history. I mean, if you really look at it and zoom out, it's like, like you said earlier, nothing stops this train. I mean, this train has left the station, right? So I don't see anything fundamentally. In fact, I see more stronger and stronger fundamentals for Bitcoin stacking up for the big long-term play. So, just tune out the noise, look at the big picture.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, that's some solid advice from someone who's been mining since 2015, someone who started, Rumble live stream, 750 live viewers, YouTube 511. Bullish on Rumble, man. Bullish on Rumble. Rumble it keeps going up. Almost 800 live viewers on Rumble.
Have you guys been canceled on YouTube? Like they.
So we were,
I'm so sick of YouTube.
We were. I love YouTube as a platform. We were accidentally removed from YouTube for 2 days, but it was an accident, and then we were very thankful to get the channel reinstated. But in the meantime, we were live streaming to Rumble, and we were able to get a little bit more loose in terms of what we were able to say. But I'm thankful for all the platforms that, host Simply Bitcoin, YouTube, Rumble, X, all the audio platforms. And I do want to thank our very, very special guest today, Matty Ice, for joining us on the show. Guys, we love you all. Smash the like button. If you feel like we provided you value, consider subscribing. Really, really helps. Obviously, get the message forward. I think we're going to hit 100,000 subscribers in the next 5 to 6 months on YouTube. Is extremely exciting. We're working. I think it's taking us 5 years.
Summer,
right?
bro.
5 years, right? So appreciate all your guys' support. We love you all. Thank you so much. Go check out our guest, Matty Ice, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.